Start the- Mm. Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is Galeti Lewis from Gold Diggers. Our final year project is called Credit Hunt, and it's by the group members, as you can see on the screen. I myself, Lewis, Ayala David, Kacharamu Deus, and then Komule Patrick. So onto the next slide, it's showing you it's basically showing you the contents of the presentation, starting with the introduction up to the very last references and then the acknowledgements. So moving on is below. Now, what you guys are seeing here is a graph that is showing you, basically we wanted to show you the extent of the problem that we're trying to solve by showing you a graph of a couple of selected countries, which basically is reflecting the percentage of the percentage of agriculture, as in, okay, the percentage of GDP that is contributed by the agriculture compared to the financing that goes into it. And on the right, you're seeing the different types of farming. Basically, there's a subsistence and then there's the commercial. Now, our main emphasis is going to be on the subsistence part of the farming because we believe this guy is almost in all developing countries as a whole, and mainly ours in Uganda. They do form the biggest part of the population. And going ahead, I'll try to explain further on that. But the two graphs we're trying to show you the extent of the problem that we're trying to solve. So onto the next slide. What we're seeing is our problem statement, first of all, is to increase access of credit to local farmers. So our way of doing that is that there should be accurate data to prove that the farmers are actually worth of credit. And through doing that, we're going to raise the confidence of the credit providers, thus providing the financial inclusion that is going to be needed for this case. I think you can even read the problem statement again. It's quite clear trying to show you what you're trying to do. And part of the related works also is an article. What you're seeing is just a quote from it. It's from the Foundation for Sustained Community Development, and it's showing you the extent to which these guys have been marginalized. Most farmers do not really have access to credit in one way or the other. So basically what they do is they do operate on their savings and all that. And you do realize that in any economy, for business to survive, funding is a very ideal part of it. There's no business where somebody funds it on an individual level and then tries to scale without loans. So below, what you guys are seeing, it's just a quote trying to show you the extent to which this problem is actually a very big thing. So onto the next slide, what we are saying is the objectives. Now, our main objective is going to be to determine the amount of credit needed to subsidize the farmers, in this case, the subsistence farmers, and the others, also to classify the borrowers into different classes based on their credibility. So what basically we're going to try to do is, based on a set of questions, which we are going to see later on, we're going to grade the different classes of borrowers so as to raise the confidence of the creditors, yeah. Because much as credit is needed, they also need to be able to be sure. You also need to be able to be sure about what they're getting into, because as a business, they still need their money paid back. So we're going to classify the borrowers into different classes. And then also we're going to try to determine the relative income of the subsistence farmers, as we believe this is going to play a key role in determining the amount of credit to be issued. Those are some of our objectives. And going forward, below, what you're seeing now is a set of research questions. There are 10 in total. You can read through, but We believe these questions are going to help us get the necessary information that we need from the producers, which is going to help us to determine how worthy they are for credits. There are 10 questions in total, and most of them are quite open-ended or even closed-ended, as they help us get to know the producers better. So on to the next slide, it's a continuation of the questions. As you can see, the different types, their income, their credit history, the markets, and for all that. Yeah, that's a set of questions. So on a further note, on this slide, what you're seeing is the methodology. So how are we going to achieve our set objective? First of all, we're going to start by collecting the personal details of the farmer. Just like any other credit agency, you need to know the person you're getting into. So that's the very first thing that we're going to get into. And then we're going to determine the relative value of the person's farm produce. Now, this in the sense that it's going to act more like it's the set of assets that are going to act as collateral, much as we do not really have that much collateral because most of these guys are low income, yeah? Low income, we're counting on the produce that they're going to generate. So we need to know the relative value of the farm produce that they have. And then we shall also determine the annual turnover for a given period of time. Now, that's going to be based more on, it's going to be based more on their past history. It's going to be based more on their past history and what you're expecting them to produce this given year. And then from that, you're going to determine the value of whatever they have in place. And in most cases now, these guys really do not rely so much on one. The producer is relying on other sources of income as well. Then the payment from the other source of income can act as collateral to hedge against the risk that we're trying to get into. So basically, we shall be determining the value of the available collateral, which in most cases is their income stream. And then the expected cash, the income that we're going to be expecting from them in that calendar year. And then based on that set of inputs, we're going to rate the borrower in two different classes based on what we believe will be good for them, based on the data they have, to show that they're credit worthy. So it can be triple A, triple B, and all that. So now below, this graph is showing you that in an economy, there are different classes of borrowers. There's high income, moderate, low income, and then there are poor people. Now, the low income, it's what we're seeing in gray. And this guys actually do make up the vast majority of African economies, and more so in Uganda. We believe actually, the report where we got this from, we believe this is an estimation, because based on what most gays outside of the city rely on, which is literally 95% of the population, it's basically farming on a low scale. And these guys, they're the people whose problem we're aiming to solve as the low income people. And on the next slide, what we're seeing is it's a table here tabulating the different classes of borrowers. And as you can see from here, the low income guys make up the highest percentile. So from the table, we're actually expecting that from the table on the next slide, on slide 11, we expect that most of the farmers fall into the low income bracket of potential borrowers. Now, keyword is low income and potential borrowers. That means based on the activities that they do have right now, we believe they are worthy of credit, but though most of them are going to be on a micro level based on the activities that they take part in. But with the right infrastructure and all that, we believe we can provide the best market for the microcredit by providing an infrastructure for the guys who actually extend the credit facilities by raising their confidence so that they can be able to extend the facilities to these guys. Now, in conclusion, we believe that providers with the right amount of information to boost their confidence in lending to the low-income farmers will play a significant role in raising the income levels of the producers, as well as their general standards of living as a whole. Now, this we believe is key to elevating them out of poverty in the long term. And also, I think based on the Sustainable Development Goals, this is playing a very key part in achieving. Yeah, so in conclusion, that's basically what we're trying to achieve on one note or the other. And in the future, we're also hoping to partner with government agencies to extend microcredit lending facilities to these farmers, since we are now going to actually have data on them to prove that are they worthy of credit, and if they are, how much do they need and all that. So since we shall have all that information, we believe we're going to be very confident in extending those facilities to them ourselves by partnering with government agencies like NADS and the rest. So yeah, basically, and then there are a few articles, there are references. For example, there's an article about risk management by Centenary Bank. Below is a link. I think you can follow it and read more. But it's basically trying to show us that much as even the banks need business, they're still not certain because of certain factors. They're not sure whether these guys are credit worthy or not. And then also the Foundation for Sustained Community Development for their effort to bring to light how the smallholder farmers have been marginalized. And now to actually just add slightly more, that article is part of the reasons why we came up with what we are doing right now. It's part of the inspiration because we got the whole idea for it from the fact that we believe we can actually solve that. And also to acknowledge a few people, basically the four of us in the group, and then the Foundation for Sustained Community Development. We'd very much like to acknowledge them for their efforts in bringing to light the issue of microlending to farmers and SMEs, as it's a very significant part of any other economy. So basically, that's what the project is about. Thank you very much.
Thanks.